What's up, folks, and welcome to the Modern Truth's Throwback Thursday. I'm MJ, here with Alex Storm, and we're going to do what we always do on Throwback Thursdays. We're going to talk about an old school movie. So, Alex, what did we watch this week?
So this week, we watched one of my favorite movies. I've been looking forward to this Throwback Thursday for a couple months. It's in honor of Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton.
So we watched Boyz N The Hood. It came out in 1991. It was directed by John Singleton. It was his first movie. It was his directorial and writing debut. He was only 22, which was amazing to me. And it starred Cuba Gooding Jr., Lawrence Fishburne, Morris Chestnut, and
Ice Cube.
Of course. I love this movie. I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I think I just rewatched it a couple years ago. But every time I watch it, I enjoy it. I cry a little, and yeah, it's good for me. What do you think?
Yeah, this movie's pretty good, man. It's pretty cool, and I try to think of the cultural significance of this film at the time. I mean, in my world, and I don't really know, I can't speak for other people, but man, when this movie came out, it was just such a big thing. It was like, this is one of those movies. It is a classic film, even regardless of how you actually feel about the quality of the film. Let's say if you did watch it, you didn't think it was good or you didn't like it. It's still a classic because it's such a well-known film. It's like it's a film that if you were alive and over the age of, I don't know, 8 or something at the time, or right around there, you knew this movie existed and you've probably seen it in some capacity. Maybe you didn't sit down and watch from beginning to end, but you've seen this movie. And you can't really say that about a lot of movies, right?
Yeah, I feel like this movie, I didn't know about this movie until I was probably a teenager, but I think even when it came out, I heard about it, but I was a little bit too young. But then once I was older, this was at least what I thought about it and what I heard about it, and my thoughts when I was a kid was this was this cool gangster movie from LA. And this is what life was like in LA in the 90s. And then as I got older and kept watching the movie, I realized that its significance and its impact as a film is actually a lot more, because it makes some pretty serious social commentary, and really serious social commentary for its time. And actually, this movie, if it were to come out today, it could be making the exact same, it could send the same message, and it would give the same message, and it would still be a really valid message for today, which is a little sad.
I was going to say, which is kind of depressing.
We haven't come very far, but I don't know. It's points about gentrification. It's points about race and about who oppresses who, and how oppression works, and how guns and drugs are brought into communities to control them. Those are amazing points that I didn't get for sure when I was a kid, but I was like, wow, I love this movie.
I was really surprised about the gentrification part, actually. That was the one that stuck out to me the most. It's wow, okay. I
feel like that's one of the most memorable scenes. I think maybe I didn't get it when I was a kid. I didn't know what that meant. And then when I was older watching it, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I just learned about gentrification or something. And I was like, it's so cool they talked about this in this movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, the saddest part about it is that I think my memory of this film was exactly that it was this, not necessarily gangster film, but that it was much more about violence and just sort of, hard living. And that's really not what this movie is about. And the thing that sort of frightens me is that that's still the reputation it has. And I think people who even would be considered members of the community that is presented in the film don't interpret it that way. Some of the things we're talking about, I'm not sure if people who say they like that movie, if that was what they've taken away from it, which is, I guess I immediately think of how sad it must be for some filmmakers or artists or whoever who have an intention behind something and it takes off, but not with this intention that they had when they made it.
Remembered for something different than
it's
social
what I remember about the movie is Morris Chestnut getting shot. That's pretty much seriously, just all the shootouts. That's what I remember in the movie. I didn't remember any of the social commentary. But again, to your point, I was a child basically when the movie came out, and I haven't seen it since then. So I'm really glad we rewatched it, because this is an important film, and it's a movie that people do need to watch because it has a message that, like you said, still resonates today.
And the other thing that I think is really important about this movie is that it portrays a broad spectrum of Black Americans, but it also shows a really strong, solid, positive father figure. And I feel like tons of Black movies are missing either a positive father figure or a positive mother figure or both. And this kid grows up, he doesn't grow up with both parents together, but he grows up with two good parents who are working, who are supporting him, who are being positive role models. And I feel like that's lacking in so many movies. I mean, across all races, but I really like that about this movie. I like that it gives that portrayal.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good sort of counterpoint, sort of showing, this is a kid who had two good parents. This is the path he's on. these are the kids who didn't necessarily have as good upbringing. This is the path they're on, and really showing how even with that good upbringing, just being in that environment, you can still come this close to ruining everything, you know. And I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And the other thing they show with Ice Cube's character is they show how much the justice system can totally ruin lives. From the time when a child is put into the system when they're a kid, they're continually in the system, and it doesn't explicitly state that point, but it's shown. You know, he goes to jail when he's a little kid, which is really extreme for shoplifting, but that's beside the point. But either way, he gets involved in the system when he's a kid, and then he grows up in the system, he's in and out of the system, and then ultimately he's, he's the one who's the most messed up in the movie, and the character that I feel like you're the saddest for in the whole movie.
Well, I think I'm pretty sad for Morris Chestnut getting killed, but that's just
fair
me.
enough. Yeah, of course.
Maybe his mom, as he's having a meltdown.
Oh
my God! And that was a really rough scene, man.
That's a brutal scene, but it's brutal for Ice Cube too. He's there, he's trying to comfort them, and they're like, "This is your fault."
Well, but it's a super weird scene because they're dragging a dead body into the house and throwing it on the couch, saying, "Hey, mom," you know.
Maybe not the way you'd handle that situation, but it brings a lot of emotion, and I know in that scene I personally really feel for his character. And
yeah. I mean, again, look, how about this? This was Ice Cube's first movie too, right?
Mm-hmm. And Morris Chestnut's first movie.
In a super weird way, I feel like, and this same thing happened with Chris Rock in freaking New Jack City. I know it's kind of random, but for his first role, this is one of the best roles he's done. I'm talking about just being natural, this delivery. I've seen him do later stuff, but I'm just you seem forced and not really comfortable. Mm-hmm. But in this role, it totally felt right. And I mean, maybe it's because he was just playing himself, but still, I mean,
he was playing himself in 1991.
I was gonna say a lot of people are, tasked with playing themselves in movies and drop the ball pretty mightily with that too. So I was really impressed when you consider how much dialogue he had. So yeah. And the other funny thing was, watching this movie, I realized half the cast is also in Friday, which takes place basically in the same neighborhood or the same area. I thought that was kind of funny because Friday is Boyz N The Hood, the funny version or something like that.
I mean, the lighthearted version.
Yeah, even having similar scenes. You think you're a man, you'll get to get all this stuff. And I guess I never really thought about Friday as sort of being this funny version of Boyz N The Hood, but that's pretty much exactly what it is.
I never thought of that either. We need to do a Throwback Thursday on Friday soon.
For sure.
Throwback Friday.
Throwback Friday. A day late.
So yeah, watching this movie, I would totally recommend it. And it's a movie that I would show, young adults. I would show younger cousins, younger brothers and sisters once they're teenagers and old enough for the content that's in the movie. It has a great message. And if for adults who haven't seen it in years and only think of it as a gangster movie from LA, it's really worth going back and watching. Yeah,
and I mean, again, to be very, clear about it, for me, I think first-time director, this is quite an achievement, but the movie has issues. I mean, it has some pacing issues, it has some editing issues. It looks like a movie that was made by the first, someone's first movie, but it's still, the core of what's there is still very good, and, it shines through in the final product. And, I mean, large part of this cast is still working today. I mean, these are household names. This movie put a lot of people on the map and kept them on the map, at least in the urban genre of TV and film for many years. So, I guess we talk about diversity with this film since we talk about with every other film. And you know what? Honestly, for a movie that takes place where it takes place, there actually still is some diversity there. There are some white characters in the film, And I mean, I think this is you always have to keep perspective in play. If you're talking about a movie that takes place in the Wild West, for example, you can't really complain about there not being a lot of black people in it. To the same point, this is about a very specific, focused, area of a specific location. And so therefore it is dominated by the, characters of color. And, I mean. Another piece of this interesting social commentary that they make is with the cops. There are two cops, and the white cop is actually not the bad cop. It's the black cop. And you also think about, we talk so much about police and how neighborhoods of color need to be policed by people of color, but this is also a phenomenon where people of color can be policed in their neighborhoods and experience the same power dynamic and the same feeling that they're above the people they're policing, even if they're the same race. And I thought that was a really valuable thing, that it showed that. Yeah. And I think one of my favorite scenes, again, very relevant today, is when Cuba Gooding Jr. and Morris Chestnut run into the same cops later on. And Cuba Gooding Jr. is essentially threatened by this cop and is in this position where he's I know I can't do anything about this. He's a cop, he'll kill me, and I can't. I can't defend myself. I'm, being
being
harassed.
Being harassed and
humiliated,
being humiliated, being threatened, and just like in this position that I think, I mean, so many people are still in that position today, and it's showing that can happen no matter who the cop is. It's another valuable message from this movie.
Yeah, so pretty much our takeaway is the more things change, the more they stay the same. 20 plus years later, things are still screwed up all around this country. So sad. Yeah, look, I guess one last thing I want to say is, the impact of this film on black cinema. I kind of jokingly think that this is like the beginning of the kitchen sink approach that we now see with Tyler Perry, where it's like, to go back to that example, it's like, that black cop was slightly cartoonish, right? I mean, like, he was a little too much, but I understand why some of these characters need to be portrayed that way, or like the dope head character who's like, I'll suck your dick. It's like the second sentence he says to the dude. Yeah. It's like, it's just these things where it's like, you still only have so many minutes in a movie to sort of convey everything you're trying to convey. So you do have to draw some of the characters pretty broadly. So they're like, we can't have this black cop even be subtle. He has to be this dude who's just like raging on every black character he comes into contact with, in a way that probably, even for the time, wasn't completely accurate. But again, still delivers the message. But sometimes my concern is that when you have these extreme representations, that sometimes people just roll their eyes at it if they don't, identify with it. So
yeah, that's true. Last thing, women in the film. Not great portrayals of women.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Except for Angela Bassett, the mom. Even though she, I mean, you don't really know like what she does or anything, but she seems like
she's getting an education. She's trying to do what's best for her kid. And I mean, I think towards the end she goes through like sort of this weak mother moment, which wasn't great, but understandable, very believable. Yeah. The rest of the females in the film, not great portrayals, and I didn't feel like totally believable portrayals of like what every girl in this hood would be like. But I mean, we do have the girlfriend character, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s girlfriend, and she's portrayed somewhat positively. But it's not a movie about girls, and so I guess
it's called Boyz N The Hood.
Yeah, I wasn't upset that there were no strong
boys and girls
characters.
In the Hood.
I mean, it's about them. It's about coming of age. It's about, I don't know, reflecting on your own position in society and how you fit with your friends and how you fit when you'll like leave wherever you are for Cuba Gooding Jr. And so, super valuable film. There could be a Girls in the Hood movie. I think there is a Girls in the Hood movie. Is
Maybe.
there?
I don't know.
There might be. Either way.
There are some odd similarities you think about it, because it is a coming-of-age story. It's like a Stand By Me. Same deal, right? It's like same, even almost the same amount of boys, kids, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean,
if they made the child part longer, it could be a boys version of Stand By Me.
Yeah. A boys version? So, And on that incredible note, I think we can conclude our discussion of...
I got to say one more similarity. Stand By Me, one of my favorite things with the boys cry in this movie, when they're little boys. There's some crying. I love that. Oh,
and one more similarity, since we're on the topic, is they said, do you want to see a dead body? Stand By Me is about the boys going to see a dead body. So I'm going to go off...
It was the condensed version of Stand By Me.
I'm going to go off on a limb and just assume that John Singleton must have watched Stand By Me before he wrote this script. It had to have been some sort of motivation.
4 friends, sort of similar characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe so.
Man,
it was the extended version when they grew up. We just had a revelation.
I think we're on to something here. Let us know what you think in the comments. So again, that will conclude our discussion of Boyz N The Hood. I am MJ. You can follow me on Twitter at the only MJ, and she is...
I'm Alex Storm. You can follow me at Alex Storm, TMT, as in The Modern Truth.
And themoderntruth.com is where you can find all of our Throwback Thursday videos, movie discussions, and all the news you need to know. Thanks again for tuning in, folks, and take care.